here's a piece of practical advice I would give you if you're coming to us or somewhere else with multiple courses. Play the hardest one on day one. Hello and welcome to the Caddie Tales podcast. I'm Mark the Caddy, joined as always by my sidekick, colleague, friend, and fellow looper Nick. Sorry how I forgot that for a second there. I saw a text come through from my wife, but we're happy to talk to you guys about how the beautiful game of golf and life intersect and how we can learn lessons in both arenas that help us to grow as people. We're brought to you again by Zero Restriction Golf. So thankful for working alongside them. We were just having a talk off air about rain gear as we start the season here tomorrow. You guys are listening hopefully on our opening day, which is Friday, April 25th, and there's some rain in the forecast. Zero Restriction is just as good as it gets. Check them out at zerorestriction.com. Use the promo code BESTBALL20 to get yourself a discount and pick up something to keep you comfortable out during that spring golf. Also, a whole lot of other swag that just looks great and is super comfortable as well. Like I said, Nick, we start tomorrow as we're recording this on a Thursday. Our opening day is on Friday, and whole lot of feelings, a whole lot of emotions come with it, a lot of excitement. How you feeling?
Very excited to get back. Yeah, I'm itching. I saw. I was training yesterday, and obviously I got a couple glimpses at the course. It's looking great, so that only kind of fueled my excitement to get back. You just kind of forget sometimes how beautiful it is, you know?
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's just going to be nice to see the guys.
Oh yeah.
Going to be nice to see the beautiful course. Yeah. Last year, I remember the Straits was in real good condition to start the season. Mm-hmm. I would imagine it's going to be the same this year. I mean, obviously it gets better as the season goes on, but it's not like you're out there playing in just dark brown, nasty turf and grass. It's really nice. So we were talking about how the weather isn't ideal for tomorrow. High of 47, 25 mile an hour sustained winds. I saw next Tuesday 40 mile an hour winds. Ooh. Yeah. Some rain and stuff, but that's just part of the territory for the beginning of the season. I think the biggest challenge in those conditions is actually just the bags, in my opinion. I mean, certainly the players, and that's all over the place. You'll get some who can handle whatever, some play in the wind better, whatever. But what really exhausts you is if guys have heavy bags and then it starts raining. And those bags become even heavier. That can really wipe you out at the start of the year. So I'm hoping that's not the case.
Yeah, and if the wind's bad too, the bags are kind of like turned into sails, and you're kind of just getting pushed all around and not in the right direction. And
I often think about which condition I don't like the most. You know, which I think is the hardest, and it's like wind exhausts you the most over the course of the season. But I mean, it's hard to vote against rain because when those feet get wet and it's just piddling on you for the whole round, it's just, I don't know. I guess it's one thing if you're playing in Ireland and you have had that on your bucket list forever versus another thing if you're caddying and you've had enough of this in your life that you don't really need anymore. So, but no, we don't want to complain. We're very thankful to be getting out there. It's just spring is not as good as fall. I think we've mentioned that before here. Like, I grew up playing spring sports. I played sports in all seasons in high school in Michigan. So it's a very similar climate. I remember wearing shorts during spring sports. I remember having short sleeves. This was not like a thing where you always had games canceled because of the weather. And that seems like what it is so often around here now. And then the fall, though, is just gorgeous.
Yeah.
So if you guys are still on the fence about when to come up to Whistling Straits, unless you just can't wait, I'd say come in late September, early October. It's just amazing. Beautiful.
Fall's peak, yeah. Fall's peak for us, that's for sure.
Right. So, okay, we want to give some people an idea of what it's like to go through a loop with us. Thought that would be fun to talk about as we start the season. And also as people are planning golf trips or have them on the docket. You know, these things that we're going to talk about as far as how they relate to Whistling Straits are probably somewhat similar to how it is at a lot of destination or resort courses. Certainly the ones that are harder courses, like a Pebble Beach or, I don't know where else you would, Pinehurst number 2.
Probably Bandon, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly resort courses that are not designed to beat you up. But I wouldn't classify Whistling Straits as a resort course. I would consider it like a resort vacation that you come to with a world-class championship golf course. And so you've got to be mindful of that it's not like being on some flat course in Florida or something. It's a little different. But, we see some things through the course of a loop on a pretty regular basis that kind of end up becoming our expectation. There's no doubt there are days where we get some really good players and they're not overwhelmed by the course, and it's a different experience than what we're going to talk about now. But Nick, and this is not a criticism of golfers. This is just, it's hard. And so, you're going to see some things out there. What percentage of rounds would you say you have over the course of a season where it's just easy because the golfer's straight down the middle, emotionally mature, is shooting in the 70s, is just a good player, and doesn't seem to be fazed by any of it?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably like less than 5%, I would say. I actually got asked a pretty similar question by one of my trainees this week. They're like, you guys must get like a lot of good players that come out here and stuff. And I'm like, not as many as you might think. You're not getting a good player very often.
It's dangerous to use that phrase "good players" because, in my opinion, a guy who's a 7 handicap, a 10 handicap's a good player.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, but they're going to have some troubles usually on a course like Whistling Straits.
Yeah.
And again, the difference is in how enjoyable it is do they expect it, or did they come with this grandiose idea that they're going to shoot 70? And, I think most people are pretty realistic. But the thing that I think is what I would say a piece of advice I would give players. Expectations, having right ones is always something. But here's a piece of practical advice I would give you if you're coming to us or somewhere else with multiple courses. Play the hardest one on day one. Don't save the best for last, as people often do. I think that's actually really important, because how many people have you seen on day 4 of a golf trip play Whistling Straits and they're exhausted, hungover, grumpy, tired of golf?
Yeah, that's pretty
common.
Pretty frequent. Yeah, you're just kind of exhausted at that point, and maybe your golf swing's not, participating quite like you'd want it to. So
that would be my number one piece of advice. What would be yours, Nick?
I would say probably try not to play 36 every single day. Like if you're there for 4 days, maybe you go like 18, 36 if you're a diehard, 36 if you're a diehard, and then maybe 18 on that final day, because that might be a travel day, so you don't want to get too much golfing on that day.
So I used to take an annual golf trip in Michigan. That's interesting you say that. And we would drive up on a Friday up north, play a course, and then we get to the resort do 36 Saturday, 36 Sunday, and then on the way driving back down, play a course on Monday. So 18, 36, 36, 18. I couldn't have had less interest on Monday of that trip every year. And it just wears you out. And yeah, I just remember everybody talking about, man, I've got to take a break from golf after this.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Now we do get a higher percentage of sickos, for lack of a better word, that they'll play 36 every day if you let them.
Absolutely,
and they can't relate to what I just said, but most people, they get tired out. But there's some who are like, I don't know where they find the energy. I don't know how they do it, because they're also oftentimes drinking. They're not sleeping well. Even the non-drinkers you usually don't sleep well on a trip. You don't sleep as well as in your own home. So, just think about those things.
That would probably be my second piece of advice. Would probably be like maybe take it easy on the booze a little bit. Don't overindulge.
Wow, Nick.
Yeah.
What a sign of growth in your life
know,
that
right?
would be.
Yeah, that's 38-year-old Nick, not 22-year-old Nick,
Right. Well, I sometimes wonder, like, when a group is there on like a 4-day trip and you have them on their first round, and by hole 9 of the first round they're just obliterated, and you're like, pace yourself here. I'm not being a teetotaler. I'm not trying to be sanctimonious. I'm just like, pace yourself. And yeah, whatever. They people are going to do what they're going to do. So, but I feel pretty strongly about saying, plan that first hard course, the top course, plan it first. Yeah. I think you'll enjoy it a whole lot more. And it's not like just because the other courses aren't the top one, it's not like you're all of a sudden going from this great thing to goat tracks. They're all nice in relation, sure. So, all right. So moving on, let's talk about what happens when a group shows up at the bag drop. The whole sizing each other up process. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you look for the most, Nick?
The most? If I'm being honest, I'd probably, this is going to sound so bad. I'll probably judge you by what you're wearing, just to, I guess it's kind of an indicator of how willing you are to spend money on your golf interests, I guess,
Yeah, I mean, let's just put this in simple terms. The caddy is standing there sizing up how much they think they're going to make that day. Mm-hmm. And it's not foolproof. Mm-hmm. There are surprises both ways.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But there are some indicators where the caddy's trying to say, okay, how many nice bag tags does he have from other destination courses? That one is usually a pretty good indicator because that tells you they've tipped caddies before. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then there's other people, when they go up to the bag drop and ask, what do I tip? You're like, oh, crud. You're seeing a lot of times you're trying to figure out what kind of player they are by what kind of bag and clubs they have. Again, it's not foolproof, but generally speaking, the nicer the clubs or whatever, or if you see blades, you've probably got some sticks. I've never really had guys have those who shouldn't have those, or maybe some people think nobody should have them, but whenever I've had people who have them, they're pretty good players.
Yeah, I usually get made fun of because I play blades, so yeah.
Oh, yeah, you shouldn't have them.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
No. I consider that like a scratch golfer thing,
Yeah, probably, that's probably true.
Right. And I think most of the time it is with my players. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of people like you. So, so you're sizing a lot of things up. What they're wearing just tells you how comfortable they are at a place like that. Now, then you're meeting them. I will say that a big turnoff for me is when you have a player who comes up and doesn't even acknowledge your existence. You're kind of hey, I'm Mark. I'm going to be your caddy. And they just grab their putter and go to the putting green. You're like, okay, let's just have some courteous human interaction here. And, it's just what should be proper etiquette. But anyway, some people are so dialed in and stuff. And that's a piece of advice that I'll get to in a little bit here, or actually now I want to say, is the range. I think the range should be used for warm up, not for
practice,
figuring out your game or as some big indicator of how you're going to do that day. And I'm always a little bit perplexed by the guy. The course ranger or the starter is obviously stressed trying to get everybody to come to him so he can do his little talk before sending you to the first tee. Mm-hmm. You're behind schedule. You got the caddy saying, okay, guys, we're up. And you still got that guy trying to hit a few more putts in. I'm like, what are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah. He's cramming for the exam.
Yeah, that's a perfect thing. And then you get out there on the first tee, but I was hitting so well on the range. I put something like that on a tweet this week. I figured some things out on the range, and somebody's like, that should be a t-shirt. I'm like, yeah, that's right. That's another one of those golf cliches. Yeah. So I think, use the range as a warm up time. The guys who push this, make us late for the tee time. It's kind of like people who back into their parking spot. or people who wear their cell phone on a clip. For some reason, I have this unnatural bias against those kind of people. And so,
I do as well.
Weird.
I do as well. Yeah, I mean, I think it shows that you just you're not really interested in time, and you might be, kind of slow on the golf course, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's right. It usually is. You're right. The people who are not caring about the first tee time are usually pretty aloof, and they generally move pretty slow. They're like the person who doesn't put their carts back sometimes in the parking lot, just not necessarily in tune to the surroundings and the needs of others and all that goes into running a big operation. Yeah.
Agreed.
So, but people, it's indicative of the fact that when people come to a place like Whistling Straits or Bandon Dunes or Pinehurst, they're just so amped up. The excitement level, the intensity for some of these people is so high. And I don't want to say as a caddy you try to bring it down. Of course not. But then that starts the finessing of just managing expectations. Because if you're with somebody who's kind of got those traits, there's a good chance that their expectation is they're going out there and scoring well. So then it's like, what do you do when that doesn't happen? Or if that doesn't happen?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times I'll ask them, like, what's your goal to shoot here today? And maybe they'll say like 80, and you're like, we're break 80 maybe, and you're like, all right, we're playing the blue tees, and you said you're like a 10 handicap, so I don't like our odds, but
right. Have you ever just told the player? I've had a couple occasions where I just said to the player, "You're not shooting that." I mean, because it was so out of whack,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've ever gone that far, but maybe I give him like a face. Like, I got a bad poker face, so I mean, I'd probably give him a frown.
I only did with the guy who said he wanted to shoot 64. And then, and then the one last year, opening weekend, when we're like 20-some degrees, sleet, driving rain, 50-mile-an-hour winds, and the guy wanted to break 80. And the way I said it actually was, scratch golfers wouldn't break 80 out here today. Pro golfers would have a tough time breaking 80 out here today, and you're just trying to readjust expectations. Of course, you don't want to knock people down off their perch, but there's a few times where it's like, whoa. And then you get to the first tee. So this is part of the progression. People are so excited. What do we see at the first tee very often?
First tee jitters. I mean, usually it's not a very good tee shot a lot of times.
The percentage of bad tee shots on hole one, it has to be over the course of a season. There's certainly more that miss the fairway than make it. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot, and we've been the victim of first tee. At least I have. I mean, I get so nervous on the first tee. You're all worked up, and you actually play the first hole usually pretty well, which is shocking to me, but
yeah, because I don't have jitters, and so I'm fresh.
Yeah.
But it's funny to me. You'll have guys who perform like intricate surgery or make billion-dollar business decisions, run major government offices, and they'll stand over their ball on the first tee with their butt puckering in a way that makes you realize golf is unlike anything else. And I just love it. I love the equalizing nature of it. Yeah. I love how it brings powerful men to the level of others. I think it's good for them. I think it's good for us. I think there's something healthy about it, that we have something in our life that challenges us and keeps us humble. I'm not saying humiliates us, but just kind of keeps us humble and gives us a sense of awe and respect. And as people are standing over that first tee shot, sometimes you can see that sense of respect. Like, this is hard. Golf is hard. And I'm now about to play golf in front of a bunch of people. And the nerves are there. And so, very often it becomes the first hole driving range. I'm actually working on a design right now for a line of hats that I want to make that's are called breakfast ball. Okay. Because I think that that's something that would be kind of fun for golf groups to have. And so we always say breakfast balls are customary. A line you got to use is you can hit 2, we'll look for 1 to also say.
Yep, I've used that one.
To me. You'll have a guy hit the ball 100 yards left of the fairway and 100 yards right, and you'll go walk to one of the balls, and he'll ask you, even though you've walked with, were you able to get my ball off?
Yeah.
No, sir.
Yeah. I'm not a marathon sprinter, sir.
Yeah. So, okay. So, you get through the first hole. Usually I think it's not an indicator of the round to come. I think a lot of times guys just don't score as well on it as they will the rest of the round.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame too, because I think maybe first hole on Straits is kind of a gettable hole. It's not incredibly difficult, but yeah,
it's one of the easier holes for sure. But I've had players, if they get an 8, I'm not like thinking they're bad players or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
No, not at all. I think it's just a lot of times it's jitters and getting into a rhythm and stuff. And then like there's people like me too who like get a birdie. I had a guy get a birdie on the first 2 holes once. It might have been 3 holes that he was like even par. And then he shot like 140, so it's like,
wow.
Yeah, no, I'm not kidding you.
Good starter.
And so, it's a weird thing. It's a weird game. Okay, so on our course now, you're walking, you get out to hole 2, all of a sudden the lake's there. And I always kind of say, now the course gets pretty as we're walking from the green to the tee box. And people are like, it's funny to see the people who aren't from the area, who haven't looked at maps before, see Lake Michigan and realize this thing is huge. And they're like, that's an ocean.
It could be an ocean.
It is kind of fun. Like all of a sudden you've got this great pride in where you live and in the golf course because people are in awe of the beauty.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah. That's always shocking to me too, that people don't understand how big Lake Michigan is.
It really is fascinating. There are a lot of people who I don't know what they're picturing, but they're not picturing that.
Yeah.
And so then they're remarking on it the whole round. And
the question I always get too is like, can you see the other side? And it's like, no, not even close. It's like 60 miles across. So,
and it's longer at some points. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So then after the second hole, we're not going to go through every hole here, but there's the drink cart. We have a stationary beverage cart on our course, and that's a telling sign. Not that you want your players to get loaded, but it's like, if they just walk right past the cart girl without even acknowledging her, usually
what golf. Yeah,
just there for the golf, and generally not in tune to like, hey, these are people working for tips, and it's just usually an indicator of some things, and yeah, they're not generally going to be people who are imbibing stuff, which is okay. One of your pieces of advice is for people to maybe not go as hard so early. Yeah. But yeah, that's an indicator. Now you get to what is really the course of the round where players have a decision to make. And for me, I think it usually happens on hole 4 or 5, where it's like, okay, this is harder than I thought it was going to be. That's how it is for most people. My game isn't quite there, whatever, or the conditions are rough, whatever. Am I going to concede a little bit? My expectations? Am I going to keep a good attitude? Yeah. Am I going to kind of stay focused on having fun? Because by then, people are, especially on those 2 holes, people struggle quite a bit on them quite often.
Yeah, I always see like the people that are, asking all the questions on the first couple holes, and then by this time they're starting to ask a few less questions, and they're starting to like settle in and kind of.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, that's like on the first tee shot, we'll get like players overthinking it on hole one more than anything. You know, it's a hole where they're hitting from where the pros hit. And at the Ryder Cup, every single pro hit driver. And we've got guys asking, you know, 15 handicap, do I need driver here? And they're like, well, they're going between their 3-wood and their driver 18 times and asking all these questions. How far is that bunker? How far to carry that? And then, right by the time you're getting to like hole 5, it's like just grab and point for some people. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is like, are we going to keep a good attitude, or are we going to, you know, kind of give up? And that seems early in the round. I don't think most people give up, but I think most people concede a little bit. Like there's 1,000 bunkers here. Even some good shots end up in places I don't want them to be. This is hard, and so let's approach it as such. Hey, by the way, we don't want to scare anybody. It's just, it is what it is. So you gotta have the right mindset as you come in. It's okay for something to be a little harder than normal. I mean, your score isn't going to define you. So having a little higher score isn't the end of the world. Yeah. I think even if you get a higher score at our golf course, your handicap still may go down. Right.
Yeah, I think too, and like maybe people start, you know, caring less about what they're scoring and more just about like the beauty around them, and because our course is very beautiful. So it kind of allows them to maybe take in a little more of that.
Yeah, and they start paying attention to their friends more. So there's good things that come out of it. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so you're going through the remainder of the front 9, and there's some, you know, a couple holes that are easier. For me, the 8th hole is like the hardest to caddy and is a deceptively hard hole. The 9th hole, now you get a little bit of a change as you come off the water, you're going toward the clubhouse. But then you got the turn window. So another kind of thing that's a tell or
an indicator,
a sign of how the round is going. What do they do at the turn window? Do they offer the caddy something? So that's something last year, because we started this podcast and we talked about that a little bit. I was fascinated how many people thanked me for talking about that. Like they had no idea that they should offer something to the caddy. They were like, nobody was turned off by it. People were like, oh yeah, I loved that you talked about that. It let me, and then all of a sudden, because I talked about liking beef jerky, I started having everybody who I caddied for bringing me beef jerky. So
that's awesome.
I mean, most people are generous at heart. So, you know, some people just don't know. But I mean, it's like, what's that movie where it's like, or where the kid's got his hands out and he's like, "May I have some more, please?"
Oh yeah.
Oliver, is it, or whatever?
Yeah, probably, yeah. I know the meme. I don't know the gift.
Can I have some more? It's funny whenever you see a caddy standing there, kind of like off to the side, look on their face. Like, I don't know. I don't want to suffer the indignity of it or whatever. So if they don't offer something by the time we walk up to it, I go into the bathroom and I do my business and I go to the, you know, and then they walk up to the 10th tee, which is far enough away from the turn window. You're not going back. You guys are good, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's I know a lot of caddies will get pretty upset if they don't get offered something. I'm not one of them. I don't think
I
you're
don't
really
either.
One of them. Yeah, but
I don't either.
A lot of them do.
Oh yeah. But I think this is so. Actually, this is a better topic for saying there's a shift in the caddies at this point, and I think this is a tell of where will the caddies keep a good attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think the caddies should keep a good attitude for sure. Do I want a player to offer a Gatorade? Absolutely. But if they don't, there's water. You know, it's not the end of the world. And putting the best construction on things, a lot of players just don't know. Like the players who don't do this all the time just don't know. The players who go to courses and vacations all the time generally have learned maybe to offer the caddy something. So, but it's like, yeah, it's definitely a turning point for the caddy. Okay, is this going to be a good round or a bad round? Does it sometimes have indicative nature of the tip? Yeah, but not always. But yeah. All right, so we talked about hot dogs and brats last week, by the way. It is hilarious to see these millionaires get excited about the free brats. Love that. But we gotta stay firm on not overindulging this year.
Yeah, I'm fully invested. I'm I gotta bring like a snack along or something, maybe some nuts or trail mix or something.
I talked to my wife about that just last night. I said, I need your help in making sure that I eat a good breakfast and that I have some sort of snack so that I don't like go nuts, and also so that I protect against the drive home and stopping at Culver's and being like, well, I'll have a double butter burger with cheese, value basket with, make the fries large, throw in an extra order of onion rings, and I'll change the Coke to a large vanilla shake. And I'm like, that's just unsustainable. I can't do that anymore. I've hit the age where I just cannot do that anymore. I don't care how much you exercise.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember me and the guy I caddy with a lot last year sending our McDonald's orders to each other after a round, and it's like, this is poison we're putting into our bodies.
Disgusting.
Yeah. So a little healthy snack at the turn window helps keep our hearts from exploding, friends. All right. So now you've got some gettable holes on our course. 10 through 13 are maybe some of the holes where there's some scoring opportunities. And I'll always kind of tell players who are, good and whatever, like, hey, this is where you're going to want to get them, because the finishing holes are a little harder to score on. And so I like it. The fun hole obviously is the short par 3 or 12 hole, where depending on where you have the flag just dramatically changes it. But, you can see some hole-in-ones there. You can see some real close shots. It's a lot of fun. And then I think hole 13 is the furthest you get out on the property and the closest you get to the lake. And it's a super fun hole. So I kind of like those holes. You also start feeling like you're getting done. But then what happens is you make the turn back going south again towards the clubhouse at hole 14, and it's the hardest walk to a tee box. And I would say, I wonder what hole it is on other courses, but for us, it's hole 14, where if somebody's going to hit a wall, that's where they hit a wall.
Yeah, I think it's got a lot to do with the fact, too, that our prevailing wind direction is kind of from that south, so it's kind of like you're turning back into the wind, maybe feeling a little defeated about that, but yeah.
Right, so like, especially if you have like players in their 70s who are, God bless them, if they're out there walking the Straits in their 70s, never a critical word would come out of my mouth about them. That's awesome. Some have done it in their 80s.
Yeah,
but you can see it at hole 14. Okay, we're tired now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people aren't walking very often. And if they do walk, they're generally not walking on a course of our magnitude, I guess you'd say, right?
Yeah, with all the terrain and all the ups and downs and side hills and all that. This is the hole where I'll also give players a reminder before the tee shot to finish their swing, because there's a big hill to the right, and they often lose the ball right because their swings are starting to get lazy or tired or whatever. And it just kind of sets you off on a bad finish, because once you get to 15 through 18, every one of those holes is a beast.
Yep. They're long, and they're some of the lower handicapped holes, and yes, very, very tough to finish strong on those holes.
Yeah, and so and that's where you're definitely, like, by 16, people are like, just give me a club and I'll go find it, as opposed to like earlier in the round where you're with them every step of the way for long conversations. Especially if they're playing into the wind, it's tough, but they're amazing holes. The 17th hole has become, at our course, and I'd encourage people who aren't familiar with it to look it up, has become the iconic hole because of the Ryder Cup and a shot that Jordan Spieth had. But it's a par 3, beautiful par 3, challenging par 3. But I would say it's one people really look forward to, and it's a fun hole to caddy because it's a par 3, so it's not like as much of a grind. And it's signaling you're almost done. It kind of rejuvenates people at the end. And so when people hit a good shot there, if they birdie it or par it, there tends to be a great deal of excitement and a pick me up, okay, here's the one that keeps me coming back. And I think that happens on the 17th hole a lot. And I'm glad that it happens and reinvigorates people, because they need that for sure. And then after that, we get to our 18th hole, which I think if you pull the caddies, 99% are going to say it's the hardest hole.
Very hard, yeah.
Yeah, and we don't see a lot of birdies there. It's just tough. It is a hard hole to caddy because there's some stuff you got to communicate that no matter how many times you communicate, there's a chance for miscommunication on that hole. I always get sad that that hole is the last hole in the sense that it's maybe not how you want to finish and say goodbye and get paid and all those things. It'd be nice if we were finishing on something where there was a little more celebration going on. But it's also, it's so hard that I think people respect it and don't dwell on it too much. But the thing that I love the most then about the round after that is no matter how people shoot, the vast majority of times, 98% of the time, there's a sense of great gratitude on the green on 18. And that's a tradition that I love so much. And I love seeing like fathers and sons hug each other, you know, longtime college buddies hug each other. People who are, you know, were strangers before the round are like, hey, let me get your number. If I'm ever in your state, I'll, you know, look you up. And I don't know how often that happens, but it happens sometimes. Yeah. I actually had a group, I guess it's 2 years ago now. And Jason, one of them we had on as one of our guests last year. He's an Ohio State guy. There's me. There's a couple that was in the group. He didn't know them. They're Michigan people, live near Ann Arbor, and they still keep in touch.
That's
Text
awesome,
all the time. Yeah,
that's terrific.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of what golf does. So I love how you have that, but then there's the moment of truth. Got to walk up this hill. Here's a piece of advice too I want to give to players. Just tip your caddy and let them leave. If I can give a little word for the caddy. Yeah. Don't make them stand there awkwardly while you go talk to all your buddies who finished before you or whatever about your round. Just, you know, tip them and let them go. And, you know, the caddies want to, yeah, they'll be gracious. It's always a little awkward, you know. Plan in advance, have cash in most cases, or if you don't, ask before, hey, is it okay if I Venmo you? You know, I think that's becoming more common. But, you know, the person who like has no money, hasn't thought about the tip or whatever, and then wants to go talk to their buddies, that's always like, come on. Came to your business and did this when you appreciate it. Right. And, yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, you're just kind of standing there awkwardly, kind of another situation where you got your hand out and yeah, it makes for an awkward. It
puts you in a position of feeling rude.
Yeah.
Even though you haven't done anything wrong, but you feel like impolite or rude, and I don't know. It's just not my favorite thing. I wish it was handled a little bit differently. A lot of times it's like streamlined, then there's somebody who's like really in control of it. Yeah. But a lot of times then there's like, especially if it's like a big group, like they have 4 or 5 groups, and you're in the last one and all their buddies are sitting up top. Sometimes it's hard to get those people over. So I've started just getting more bold, and I'll say as we're walking up, hey guys, if we could just say our goodbyes up here and square up before you go and talk to your buddies, that would be really appreciated. And usually there's one person in the group who hears you. Yeah,
for sure. Plus it kind of brings in like that anxious thing like in the back of your mind. You're like, does this guy know he has to tip me?
Cause... I know. And like you'll have one tip you while one's away, and then you're like, is this for both of you? Like, and you don't want to answer, you know, it's just not a position you want to be in, and it happens every now and then, and it's not my favorite. So, but that's, you know, after that, the caddies go and they'll put your clubs away, and you're either off to your next round or off to home. And sometimes we see each other again, because sometimes you request us for another time, and, you know, other times it's our goodbyes, but it's really cool to be inserted into 5 hours of time with these people. And you feel like you feel closer than you are by the end of the round because it's so close. With a lot of players, it's like it's so dialed in for those 5 hours, that relationship. And I compare it to when we had a baby, or we had 4 of them, and my wife's in labor for a long time. Mm-hmm. You feel like you get to know that OB nurse. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like you feel like, hey, we're friends now. And then reality is you have your kid, you go home, you never see him again. But that relationship felt more intimate than it was. I think caddying's a little bit like that, where for a short period of time, it's a pretty close relationship.
Yeah, I think that's awesome too. And like, I always feel bad when people come back and they're like, yeah, I had you as a caddy like 5 years ago, and you're like, oh man, I don't remember you. I've caddied for so many people. It's not because you don't like them, obviously. It's just because like
right.
You just caddy for so many people that you just kind
of. That happens for sure. I am a little better at remembering that than you are, probably.
Probably, yeah.
And it's like, but then when you have that, when you just randomly get put with them, and you've had them, you're like, are they upset? Did they hate me? You know, like you have all that insecurity that comes through your mind for sure.
Right. Yep.
All right, Nick, we are going to start tomorrow or today as people are listening, or in the past if they're listening next week. And we are going to return our Good Caddy, Bad Caddy segment. For those who are new to listening to the Caddie Tales podcast, we're going to close each show moving forward with a segment called Good Caddy, Bad Caddy. And what we want to do is look back on our previous week and say something we did exceptionally well, and share a moment that we'd like to take back. Well, since we haven't caddied yet, we don't have those moments. But Nick, I'd like to ask you, what's something that you'd like to do more consistently well this year? What's a good caddy goal for you?
Well, so as you're aware that I've become a trainer now, and I just like to maybe become like a good person for the new caddies to go to ask questions if they need help with anything. So try to be, there for them.
Yeah, that's a great goal. I think there's a need for mentoring the young caddies. I know guys like AI, for us, learning from him, watching him my first year or so has been infinitely helpful.
Yep.
Some others too, but I don't know if they want me to call them out or name them on, but I observed them, and you need those mentors. What I have found is you need young caddies. The young caddies need to know somebody isn't like being mean to them, because when I caddy with a new guy, I do try to be really nice and helpful to them. Mm-hmm. And you can tell that that's not always the case, unfortunately. A lot of older caddies have kind of the mentality of like, you prove yourself to me. Yeah. And so when I find that you're nice to them, they're almost like somebody who's been abused. They're ready to like crawl into your lap.
Yeah, they're like a puppy.
Yeah. So, okay. And then what's something that you've want to avoid doing poorly?
Oh boy. Let's see. I mean, I guess I still probably need to work on becoming a better conversationalist. I think I've I've gotten better. But there's still room for improvement. So
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. For me, what I'll say is, and this is going to be a grind at the beginning, is I want to be able to, as I get older, I get a little more nervous about keeping up, and I got to, the beginning of the season, unfortunately, you're kind of getting in shape, caddy shape a little bit. And everybody, I don't care what you did during the winter, everybody hurts at the start of caddy season.
You can't prepare for it,
but that's a real goal of mine, is to really, but the way to do that is you don't necessarily have to be fast as a person. You have to, and I've gotten a lot better at this. You have to anticipate what's next. You have to be ready to move. Some of it, because like, for instance, I could be caddying with a young guy who's like young and thin and fit and whatever, but they don't have the bags up on their shoulders. They're watching the ball till it lands instead of walking while it's in the air and stuff like that. So the benefit of experience helps you to do that so much better.
Yeah, you're way more efficient. I agree.
Yeah, being a more efficient caddy, for sure. And then so something that I want to avoid is I want to avoid worrying out there about like things like the tip or like let it be what it's going to be, instead of analyzing, I wonder how these people are going to do or whatever. Yeah, of course, people are there to make money. I'm not ashamed to say that. But, just let it be what it's going to be and realize it all evens out and we've got a good life and we're, and even if you have a player you don't connect with all that much, let it be what it's going to be. Don't worry about it. Don't sweat it if they don't seem to like you as much as some other players or whatever. Yeah. Because I bring that up because you're in this very close human relationship with them, this personal relationship for a short period of time. You want it to go well. Well, you know the difference between when it's really going well versus when, and so it could hurt hard. Like you can be uncomfortable when it's not going well. Mm-hmm. I think you got to just not worry about it and just do your job the best you can and realize, the next loop's a new loop and it's all going to be fine. So, all right, Nick, super excited. We are reporting about the same time tomorrow. So maybe we'll be doing our first loop together. Who knows?
Possibly. Yeah. It'd be awesome.
I think we're on a loop together this coming Monday. So, man, oh man, what memories we're going to make out there. And we are going to do so remembering the greatest truth I know, and that is this. Whether it's on the golf course or in life, no matter how out of bounds we are, no matter how deep in the bunker, no matter how hard and hopeless it seems, on this side of the ground, there's always a next shot, and it's full of hope and opportunity. So take yours.